Hi, I'm Faraz Khan, and welcome to Drag and Drop Low Code Unplugged, the podcast where we explore the game-changing impact of low code in software development. Join me in insightful conversations with IT leaders and passionate low code enthusiasts who are at the forefront of this digital evolution. Together, we'll explore how early adoption of low code is giving businesses a competitive edge on a global scale. We'll discuss its impact on software development, dissect its role in transforming businesses, and uncover the ways in which it's reshaping career trajectories. So whether you're a seasoned IT professional or a curious enthusiast, be sure to tune in as we share success stories and unravel the mysteries of low code. Subscribe now and stay tuned for a front row seat to the revolution that's shaping the future of technology. So let's go. Hi Liz, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good there.
Thank you for agreeing to be a guest on the podcast. I know we've been talking for a while, so it's great to be here.
Yeah, it has taken a while to get to it, but yeah, I'm raring to go.
Appreciate it. It'd be good to start with a bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, for those who don't know you.
Okay, yeah. I'm Liz Thomason. I am head of software development at the Crown Prosecution Service. CPS is a UK government department, and our primary purpose is to deliver justice through independent and fair prosecutions. We're an essential part of the criminal justice system in England and Wales. We prosecute criminal cases that have been investigated by the police or other organisations. Like I say, my role's head of software engineering. But yeah, other than that, I'm a mum, I'm a runner, I'm a bit of a sci-fi geek.
Yeah, cool.
And also a massive fan of Formula One.
Oh, amazing. Is there a particular team?
I've been many teams over the years, like I've been supporting it for 30 years. So
Wow.
I'm like a solid Lewis Hamilton supporter. So
fair enough.
I'm
so you're a red now.
For the first time in
Amazing. It'd be good to understand what kind of got your interest in we're going to touch on it later on about women in technology and things like that, but what kind of got you interested in technology to start with?
Yeah, well, I suppose I was a bit of a career shifter later in later in life compared to now, but yeah, it was probably my early 30s. I went back to university and did a master's degree in information management, and there was a course on that, an elective on digital government, and that's really what triggered my interest in technology. It was an excellent program at the University of Sheffield Information School. Like I say, that triggered my interest in technology. And it was shortly after that I started working for the CPS. Although I came into the CPS in HR, so again,
okay,
not a traditional IT background, not an entry into IT into the CPS. But yeah, I was always interested in technology, and I immediately started to find ways to automate solutions in that HR team. And basically it's evolved since then, from learning how to use, VBA, learned a bit of front-end coding, sort of coming into this from more of the no-code, very low-code entry, to progressing to where we are now.
You touched on you're a low code user using OutSystems. Prior to that, what kind of led to the decision to even look at low code as an option for the business?
Well, as an organisation, we traditionally outsourced all of our IT development. We're not a massive government department, so we had no internal development capability in the organisation. We were a very small digital department. That was by the time I moved into the digital department. So, I mean, when you're looking to create something from the ground up, it's not just the development capability that you need to look at. It's all of the supporting tools, processes, capabilities that you need, infrastructure capabilities, etc. So the ability to be able to take all of that as a package and then start small and grow out, that's what really sort of was a key enabler for the whole low-code sort of initiative. Like I say, started with that sort of no-code, from that no-code background. There'd been a whole series of small-scale, we called them apps at the time, but looking back, not apps. There were small-scale solutions that we created on the top of our existing infrastructure, when we were looking to move to the cloud as part of the UK government's cloud first policy, we looked at low code as a way of being able to enable us to go further with our development, like that real basic development that we were doing. And there's increasing demand as well from users. They see technology in their everyday lives and they want to be able to see that replicated in the workplace. So how could we do that, given the fact that we had, like I say, very little capacity, very little capability, none of the supporting processes or infrastructure. So really, low code was a bit of a no-brainer, but also enable us to start small and show that value to the organisation, show that value to the users. I always had great ambitions as to where I thought we could go, and it's nice to see that having occurred, really.
Yeah, of course. And when you were evaluating, did you already know about OutSystems or your evaluation process? Can you talk me through why you chose OutSystems in the end and why it was best suited for the CPS?
Yeah. So I mean, for any any commercial, that you always start with the requirements. What is it the organisation need? As I say, our drivers at the time were we were looking to move some of our on-premise infrastructure into the cloud. So these small-scale solutions that we had needed to be moved. So initially, I was looking at something that could replicate what we had on premise, but in the cloud. So I wasn't looking at OutSystems at all. There was the capability aspect. As I say, we had no developers within the organisation. Yeah. We had myself and a few other people who'd done these things on the side that had created efficiencies. But the solutions that had been created, we sort of pushed them to their maximum. That we weren't utilising proper, the databases at the time. A lot of it was based on SharePoint lists, so they weren't able to, scale up in terms of volumes of data. So we were looking at things that could address that. So there's a whole series of requirements, as well as the standard requirements around, we need to make sure that anything we create in the cloud is secure. I mean, the nature of our business being prosecution,
of course.
criminal case, or even if we weren't creating solutions directly to handle those cases, any supporting systems, even if it's HR, finance, whatever, they all need to be of a really high security standard. So we had a long list of requirements, but I think underpinning all of that was the reality of our situation, which was no pre-existing development capability, and the need to move this set of on-premise tools that we'd created previously into the cloud and make them do more, meet higher user expectations. So that's very broad bag of requirements. And we did the normal commercial activity, looking at the market at the time, and we were talking 2017 that we were looking at this. So there were a range of players that we were looking at the time. Power Platform, Mendix. There was a number of them in the space at the time. And actually, I can't even remember who it was. We initially did a proof of concept with another player in the market at that point in time. And that didn't achieve our expectations. And actually, OutSystems came in a bit left of field. So what I remembered that I downloaded the free version of the platform. Because you can do that, and then so I downloaded the free version of the platform, and they have a lot of free training. So there was the how to be a web developer, it's a week-long course, and I sat there and I did it in a weekend.
Oh, amazing!
So and I was like, oh, okay, because they had done a demo for us previously, and I was like, this is too advanced for our capability level. But actually downloaded it, did the course, and thought actually it's not, and it felt it met the requirements that we had. And one of my key requirements that I've not mentioned so far was that I wanted whatever tooling we onboarded to be something that would grow with us. So it needed to be simple enough to enable us to deliver value to our organization, deliver value to our users now, but also be something that could scale up, that could handle more complex scenarios as our skills grew and as the demand grew, because I didn't want to onboard something and then keep swapping and changing all the time, unless there's a need to swap and change. Obviously, if there's something better out there in the market,
of course,
going to move. But it's you're always looking for something that's going to meet the organizational requirements. We believed it did. So then we went through the normal, commercial and evaluation processes. We think onboarded the platform back end of 2017, and within I think probably 4 months, I'd built the first application, built the underlying infrastructure on the platform to support it, launched our first application on the 1st of April 2018.
Amazing. And did you do that build? Obviously, you mentioned you didn't have your own team. So was that kind of built alongside OutSystems to start with before building your own capability?
So I did two things in parallel, because I wanted to show what could be done with the likes of myself, so citizen developer, who knew a bit more than your average citizen developer. I had a couple of other people who I had brought with me into the space. And it was, so I wanted to be able to show that we could use a low-code platform to deliver value as CPS, SAF. But in parallel to that, I wanted to be able to show the power of the platform as well. So back then, OutSystems used to offer enablement services. So they would, so we onboarded them as well to build a more complex system alongside. So we had one thing that was developed by me, and one thing that was, that I wouldn't have been able to have developed at that point, because there was a lot developed by them, and then that enabled me to show the business that actually, the power of the platform, but also the power of and potential of citizen development. Looking back then, it was citizen development, not where we are. But,
exactly,
basically, the ability to show that we could do things in the organisation with our own people to serve our people in a much more sort of rapid, efficient way. And actually, because we are the users that we serve, we reflect them, we understand their needs. When I look back then, though, I think we've changed so dramatically in terms of how we develop and deliver. But that was just about how do you go from a standing start. It proved to be the right thing at the time, because it got us off the ground.
Yeah. And, talking about, you now have a team, and kind of, and I think it shifted where I think all the platforms kind of solve citizen development, in those days, where I think now the bigger ones are moving away from it, and they're kind of more suited to people with that traditional development background. So how was the process of building your own internal, we've spoken about this offline a lot, and challenges, what was that process like for you trying to scale your team?
So it's a challenge that I'm still facing. I think for me, growing your own is essential. If there was one of the downsides to a platform is that like this is that you have a much more smaller availability of ready resource in that area. So you have to really grow your own. I mean, again, the situation has changed dramatically since it was in 2017. There are a lot more experienced developers out there now, but I think you can't rely on that. And being a government department as well, we have our own unique challenges. So I think being able to grow our own has always been the best approach. So yeah, it's we've had changes in structure here internally as well over time. So my team sort of has expanded as we went from initially one-man bands. So I designed, developed, got the business required, like did all of that in the initial developments because we didn't do Agile back then.
Yeah.
But then as I started to grow my team, we also grew our understanding, embraced Agile ways of working. Now we're in a situation where we operate multidisciplinary Scrum teams. We adhere to the government standards, the service standards. So there's a requirement to have those roles within your teams. As I grew my team out, I brought business analysts into the team, delivery managers into the team. So I had everything I needed, like end to end, to be able to develop, deliver, and support a service. We're changing the structure of our organization now. So now I've moved from being like a low code development team into a much broader, with a much more broader remit now as software engineering, but with a sharper focus on just the development teams themselves.
Using the platform now for now it's 7+ years you're kind of going into it. Can you talk me through some successes of things you've built, but some challenges? No platform is perfect. It's obviously adding value to the business, but can you kind of talk through some things you've built real successfully, but also challenges you've faced along the way?
Yeah, definitely. I think probably the first success to point out would be that first application, for the reasons I've mentioned before. The fact that we were able to build something internally and then roll it out that was able to overcome some of the challenges that were faced in the previous iteration of that application, namely that this application needed to be able to process I think processed like 1 million records in the first year, and when it was based on not a proper database, it fell over. It couldn't process that. So that first application was a bit of a game changer because it showed the organisation what we could do with our resources. So yeah, I think that was a significant one. I think if I had to pick the next one, which can show both like significant benefit but also significant challenges, I think that would probably be an application we built for our core business unit. So we have, as an organisation, we employ advocates from the external bar to support or supplement our internal resource. And the process for managing the onboarding of those advocates was done on email, and it's a really lengthy process. There's application process. There's a review of the quality of the candidates, and then there's the whole life cycle of managing those candidates once they're onboarded. So that was quite an early application that we built. Again, it showed what we could do from a capability perspective, and then it's continued to evolve over the years. So now it's one of our biggest applications, but actually it suffers from our sort of lack of knowledge in those early days. We were just starting to embrace agile ways of working. So it's delivered a lot of benefits, particularly to the business area that own it. But actually now, looking back, if we were as knowledgeable now in agile ways of working, we would have built it in a different way. There would have been a lot more, research into it, because now it takes a lot of maintenance. So we're going to revisit it and basically do it in a better way.
And you spoke about the agile mindset. Can you tell me about the steps kind of you took to kind of get to that place where now obviously you're in a position to go back and sort things out that you would have liked to have done better?
Yeah.
So can you, if you were giving advice to other businesses who are starting out, what would that be?
Yeah. So first of all, understand what Agile is all about. I think what I found at the beginning was people spoke about being Agile, failing fast, all the buzzwords.
Yeah.
And there was a bit of, there was a lack of understanding of what it actually meant in practicality to introduce it. So I'd say, first of all, understand what Agile is. I think also understand, second of all, how your organisation works, because if you're trying to implement, Agile processes in an organisation that is very waterfall, it can be quite jarring. And you end up in more of a sort of an Agile theatre type scenario where you are acting Agile, but it's not really Agile. So yeah, it's as much of a cultural thing as it is as a practical implementation processes as well. But I think as UK government, we're excellent at creating and setting standards, across the board. But in obviously in my arena, in sort of technical development, there are a raft of standards that complement each other. So an Agile is heavily baked into the service standard. So if you're a government organisation, you can look to that as a starting point. And even if you're not a government organisation, there's a lot that you can learn from those interconnected standards, and they're all there to ensure that we deliver value to our users, that we use the right technology. It's that we implement things like accessibility from the outset, that we incorporate secure by design from the outset. So standards all complement each other.
Yeah, amazing. And talking about the going back to the platform itself, and you spoke about you wanted to go with a platform that would grow with you, and working with the platform now over the years, there's been several updates and enhancements, to the platform every year. They're releasing things. Is there any particular releases that for you personally and then the business was a real game changer and actually added a lot of value to what you were doing?
Well, actually, what's been nice has been the fact that we haven't been stuck in an endless cycle of, significant change. We came on board when it was OS 10, and so we developed probably 4 applications before the move to OS 11. That wasn't too jarring, but since then we've been on OS 11. I think obviously there are constant upgrades to the platform, but they're really, because we use the cloud version of the platform, they've gotten easier and easier over time. That as a platform as a service, it extrapolates away a lot of the complexity that we need to manage on our end of things. So that was really helpful. So I'd say there's nothing that there hasn't been a significant jump. It's just been feature drip that has come over time. I think actually, now I'm talking about it, I think one of the big significant changes that has dripped over the evolution of OS 11 has been their advancement in accessibility. I remember when we started with OS 10, I was manually having to put all the ARIA labels in, everything to try and make features accessible for our users. And I remember there's a really robust community in OutSystems, which is great. And again, one of the reasons why we selected it, lots of good guidance.
Yeah.
And I remember searching on the communities for accessibility. And all I could find was one thread, and someone was talking about accessibility in terms of how someone could access something from another area, not like, accessibility for screen readers, etc. Using screen readers or that sort of thing. So there's been massive changes for the positive on the platform. I think there's still more that can be done, but yeah, I think that has been a big change, although it's been a change over the evolution of iOS 11.
Yeah. And with low-code platforms, not just OutSystems, the strong selling point is obviously speed, right? Things go faster than usual. Have you found, now you're kind of in a much larger remit where you're also looking at traditional side as well? Are you speaking to people within the business, or do you ever have people who are still skeptical of what low-code offers and does that you're in conversations with, who don't really believe the speed side of things for low-code?
I'd say that there are still, there are always going to be people who are more skeptical, but I think it's less skeptical on the speed and efficiency side of things, because that's just self-evident. The reason that our ability to be able to iterate and change rapidly, particularly with the front end UIs, it's like I say, it's self-evident.
Yeah.
It's hard one to argue against that. There are other aspects, I think, that of just low coding development in general that probably feed more of the skepticism side of things. But I think for developer efficiency, that ability to iterate, which feeds directly into the service standards, we have to iterate our services. User requirements do not stand still. So yeah, I think that's pretty much an accepted perspective now.
Yeah. And you're at Amsterdam when they released Mentor, OutSystems, and I know no one really has access to it at the minute, but I'd like to kind of hear your views on it. Is there something you think might help the business?
So actually, you mentioned something earlier in the conversation about how the evolution of the platform.
Yeah.
One of our original drivers was to ensure that we had a platform that was really citizen dev friendly, that it was something that we could use with a low capability level. Over the years, I've seen the platform evolve more to that professional.
Yeah.
Well, like I would not let a citizen dev, or at least from my perspective, I wouldn't let a citizen dev on the platform now like I did before, because it requires complexity to really achieve your objectives. Maybe that's also tempered with the fact that we're not doing easy use cases anymore. We're doing complex use cases.
Yeah.
But still, even the basics, if you want to ensure what you're building is scalable, that it's secure, there's things that the platform takes care of, but you really need to have a developer mindset, and you need to have experience in that area. It's just the platform itself takes the sort of manual repetitive tasks out of the way. But I think Mentor, it doesn't take it back, but it adds that citizen dev aspect to the platform again.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, and like I said, I haven't had my hands on it yet.
Yeah, of course.
But from what I've seen, the ability to be able to, I think I saw something where they had a document of requirements, and they uploaded that, and it just spat out all of the data tables, all of the screens. Obviously, in reality, you're going to then need to, amend that. And in complex scenarios, that's not going to, give you what you want. But for me, low code's about being able to take away, or at least in my scenario, take away like that first X percentage worth of effort. You don't have to sit there, build all of the database tables. You don't have to individually set up all of the screens. If it takes you the first, X percentage of the way there, I think Mentor will again take you that, but like even further with that initial amount of work. And that's where I think as well with, if you're looking at more basic scenarios, I think that will help as well. So on that more citizen dev end. So yeah, I'm interested to see what it will bring, but obviously I'm looking at it from my perspective, which is no longer citizen dev perspective. It's that more advanced use of the platform. But I think this will bring more generally that citizen dev back into the space. So yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting concept.
And it's interesting you talk about, obviously, yourself starting as kind of a citizen dev and moving along, and I think low code has this thing where a lot of people still think all low code platforms are the same, right? So, and then citizen development kind of gets pushed under all of them when actually maybe they need to split the category a little bit and kind of, but with mentor, maybe like you're saying, there might be that chance to kind of do that again. Maybe not as much, but still add, that layer on top of a little bit of citizen development for companies like yourself. But, just shifting the conversation on, something I mentioned I wanted to kind of highlight this season was, women in technology, the things kind of you go through, challenges you faced, or, especially, in your situation, obviously coming from a non-tech background and then pushing into tech, is there anything you've kind of faced that you've had to kind of work through, and how have you navigated through them?
It's quite interesting. It's only really been recently that I've reflected on being like a woman in technology.
Yeah.
Mainly because I've been asked on things like
sure.
like this. I think it's more the nature of just who I am. I don't really see like problems for other people to solve. If there's a problem, I just go and solve it myself. And I'm also sometimes quite oblivious to things. So maybe there may have been aspects or things in the past where as a female I may have been, found something more difficult, but I've never identified it and gone, this has been because I have been a woman.
Yeah.
If I've identified something as a challenge, I then think, right, how can I solve this? But that's just me.
Yeah.
But reflecting on this, I now realise that obviously it's different for different people. So yeah, I think sort of recommendations really for other females sort of trying to get into technology is around finding an organisation and finding an organisational culture that suits you. If you are in an organisation where there is, you are facing barriers because you are a female, I think a lot of organisations are now evolving away from that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been really lucky in that I've spent 19 years now, I think, in the CPS. But the CPS and the civil service in general is really is in a really inclusive place to work, with a real sharp focus on removing barriers for whatever your protective characteristic is. And I think as well, you don't always have to look to other women to be those mentors and guides.
Yeah.
It's only been, I'll probably say in the past couple of years that I've had a female manager. Prior to that, my entire time I've had male managers, and just in my entire career. But those, they have been mentors and supporters for me. So, it's about finding the people, no matter who they are, who see your value and can champion that for you and help you grow. So yeah, I'm not really seeing many challenges.
Yeah.
Because, like I say, I see a challenge and I don't put it in a box. I just see something, and
it's your mindset of kind of just seeing it as the issue and then dealing with it, not kind of thinking you've been put aside because of this certain reason.
Yeah, exactly. You can reframe a problem in a different way. You can address it in a different way. But I do recognise that there there are real challenges for women in spaces, and sometimes the answer is, if there is a real challenge in that space, then the answer is to move to a different space where you can be recognised. But I think it has to be a push-pull thing. You can't always look to other people to solve your problem. You need to also try and solve it yourself.
Yeah. And do you feel, because obviously a lot of women, there's this thing about the intimidation of entering kind of software development. My experience in the low code space, it's very kind of championed, and there's still not enough, but there's a lot of women, in the low code space. Do you feel the low code space is more favorable for women trying to build a career in IT?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, like I say, I was a career shifter, so I think people think of IT, they think, oh, you have to have a computer science background. Yeah, that helps, but there are different routes into it. I think low code enables that lower barrier to entry. But it's like I say, it's also, I think it can be, because of that perception of it being a lower barrier to entry. I think it might seem less intimidating to people, but I think also as well, like so many things are low code these days. When you're looking at, if you're interacting with like an AWS portal or a Azure portal, it's all low code. If you're using GitHub Copilot, it's low code. So I think, as to my earlier point, it's about shifting your mindset. But yeah, to go back to your question, I think that if you're put off technology because you think it's too complex, then actually a low-code tool might help you shift that mindset and enable you to get into that space. But it's, like I say, the reality is most things are low-code these days, and there's a sort of like a scale of how you then get to the more complex code understanding of code. But you've all got to start somewhere, and low-code's a good entry point.
Yeah. And talking about going back to kind of you building your team, and there's you see people within their low code careers, and obviously it comes down to a point you've already kind of talked about, the individual themselves, how much they can do as well. But do you feel a developer in you're talking about your team as an example, can grow in their career to a senior much faster using a low code platform? But our experience, when you look at traditional developers, they're kind of 5+ years or 8 years when they get to senior kind of lead level, where we see a lot of senior leads 3 to 5 years in the low code space.
Oh, that's a tough one to answer, because I think the fundamentals are the same. Whether you're I think quite a long time we held ourselves back by a perception of our own perception of ourselves, which goes back to my earlier point about changing mindset. But our own perception of ourselves that we're just citizen developers. I've tried to, both personally and amongst my team, shift that mindset. There's no you're not just a low code developer. You've got a tech stack, and you are a professional on your tech stack. Just like, a back-end C# developer is a professional on their tech stack. Ask them to come into this space, they're going to then have to, that you can it's like that first mile is easy, but then the complexity comes after that. So that C# developer come into this space, that first mile, super easy, but then it's what comes after that. So to your point about, to your question about, the ability to progress more quickly, I think the fundamentals, whether you're talking about a traditional full stack developer or a low code developer, you still need to know them. And being a developer is not just about sitting there hammering out code or
the code,
it's more than that. It's about that, about understanding this whole software delivery life cycle, understanding integrations, or there's so much more to just sitting there coding, and that just comes with time. And I don't think you can fast forward experience. So yes, the tool itself, can you develop something more quickly? Yes. All of the fringe elements that you need to become a well-rounded developer, and experience with all of those edge cases, I think comes over time. So from my perspective, yes, you need to still have, maybe there is some time shaved off to become senior, but it depends what you mean by a senior developer.
Yeah, sure.
And in my space, it's not just about, you've done something for 3 years, therefore you're
a senior now.
Yeah, can you manage people? Can you, can you understand the impact of what you are doing on the wider ecosystem? Can you, manage that change effectively? So I think all of those things, you need that regardless of whether you're a low-code developer or a traditional. But it's the same.
It all comes under software engineers' job spec, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got to be a well-rounded person. And I think for me, that's what's helped shift my mindset and shifted the mindset of the team as well. It's not just low code. You're a developer, and this is your tech stack. And along the way, that their skills expand as they, learn parallel tech stacks as well. Because whilst we have applications that are just on the, OutSystems platform, now we're more in an area where we have, mixed technology applications. So, front end logic in OutSystems, back end over here, the storage over here, integrating everywhere. So you need to understand more than just OutSystems to be able to do that.
And, shifting to the business and looking forward, things ahead, obviously being the CPS, there's not much you can probably give away, but, then, anything you can share about, what you're building at the moment or trying to build as a next kind of phase with the platform?
So actually this links quite nicely into my previous point. Like we've evolved now to a point where we're operating. Well, we started in the fringes. We built the small systems where the big complex systems were too slow or expensive to change, built that confidence, built capability. So now we've sort of migrated to the center, to the core strategic applications, but we're not just building those just on OutSystems. As I said, there's front-end logic in OutSystems, and, back end in various different places. So our core program at the moment is to transform our core case management system. That's the place of real innovation at the moment. And it's not just being done with my team. We're being supported by a variety of suppliers to be able to help us do that. And I look forward to getting to a point with the evolution of those tools that we can talk about them more widely. But for me, this is about this opportunity to enact and make real significant change to the organization, to be able to create real user-focused tools. We always have created user-focused tools. These are the ones that are going to make the biggest impact, not just on CPS, but across the criminal justice system, because if we can create, efficient tools that are intuitive, that don't need, training guides, and there's so many efficiencies that we can create along the way. This is where we are at now, and this is where we want to continue. So, I don't want to talk about them in any detail.
Sure.
Once we are sort of over the line with them.
Yeah, sure. And, just a final question, would be around kind of, if you were to, go back to 2017, your experience of now, doing this for a long time, is there, I kind of have an idea of a few things. You spoke about the Agile side of things. What would you change and do differently, if you were to rewind the clock and do it again?
I think my biggest, I've spoken about this I do speak about this quite frequently. I think my biggest miss back at the beginning was understanding the impact of maintaining services as well as building services. Because users' needs continue to evolve. So you're going to have to constantly revisit, and constantly as a, can be this or this.
Yeah.
You're going to have to revisit those services and make changes to them. You'll have security changes, legislative changes, changes just because business processes change.
Yeah.
So you're going to need to revisit them. And if you've sized your team this big, and then you get to a position like we have, where we had like 38 applications that have been built, but your team is still this big, you need to, you get to a point where you can grind to a halt because you're using the vast majority of your resource just to, to deal with the ideas for change for those applications. So I think going back, I think you need to go into this recognizing that a portion of your resources is going to be required. So every new thing you build, you need to set aside a portion of that resource for the maintenance. And probably maintenance is the wrong word because that makes it sound like you've built something that's falling over. It's not around the change associated with it. And I've spoken about the government service standards. I mean, as part of that, it says that you should continue to iterate your services as your users' needs continue to evolve. So, we didn't go into it with an understanding of those standards, with an understanding of Agile. We evolved all of this along the way. So if I go back to the beginning, I would, prepare for success because, we scaled and we scaled rapidly. But I didn't have, I didn't understand the impact that on live service, that live service, that continual support would have on us as a team and as an organisation.
Amazing. Well, yeah, I think I really appreciate you taking the time to speak to me. I think we should definitely, with all the things you're doing, and with even the platform itself evolving, it'd be good to talk again in the future when you can share about more things you've delivered, and even if mentor and AI is coming in the mix. So it'd be great to talk again in the future and kind of see how things have evolved.
Yeah, sounds good.
I appreciate your time, Liz. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Nice speaking to you.
Thank you.
Bye.